Do you believe that a simple attitude can change the course of your life? Little did Rosa know that her kind gesture to a stranger on the street would turn her life upside down. What seemed like just another ordinary day at work became the beginning of a journey full of humiliations, discoveries, and a totally unexpected ending. But what if I told you that that woman dressed in rags, rejected and called a beggar, was actually the mother of the most powerful man in that company? This story will show you that the world turns, and that the purest heart is always the one that wins in the end. Rosa was one of those women that life always tested. Coming from the countryside, raised among plantations and clay pots, she learned from an early age how to survive on what little she had. She lived in a simple one-room house, made of unplastered bricks, with a zinc roof that sang loudly on rainy days. Despite the difficulties, she never lost strength or faith. After many months of tirelessly looking for work, Rosa got a job as a cleaner in an imposing company in the city center. The building was all glass, with air conditioning that blew too cold, and staircases that shone so brightly they looked like mirrors. For Rosa, it was like stepping into another world. That morning, with the sun barely out of the sky, she got off the cramped bus carrying her lunchbox, a bottle of water, and a heart full of hope. She was hurrying down the sidewalk when something caught her eye, a lady sitting by the gate of her building. She was wearing old, dirty clothes that were almost falling apart. The scarf on her head barely hid her unkempt gray hair, and her eyes, small, tired, were lost in the movement of the street. Most of the company's employees hurried past, looking away, pretending she wasn't even there. But Rosa stopped. She bent down calmly, like someone who respects other people's pain, and spoke softly. "Are you feeling well? Do you need anything?" The old woman was slow to reply. She moved her knees as if looking for strength and muttered, "I came from a village over the hill. I got lost, but I'm fine, child. I'll be leaving soon." Rosa didn't have the heart to leave her there alone. Even with the clock ticking, even knowing that the company environment was rigid, she followed her heart. "Would you like to wait inside? I work here. I can find a corner and bring you some coffee, at least until you feel better." The old woman looked at her with shy glint in her eyes, nodded, and fate, unbeknownst to them, was beginning to write a new story. Rosa carefully helped the lady up. Her body was fragile. It seemed that any stronger wind could carry her away. Even so, there was a quiet firmness in the way she held Rosa's arm, like someone who had weathered many storms in her life. They entered through the company's service door, avoiding attracting attention. Rosa knew that the eyes of the receptionists and supervisors were not usually kind to those who deviated from the standard. She led the lady down a side corridor to the small storage room where she kept her cleaning materials. It wasn't comfortable, but it was discreet, and most importantly, it was safe. "You can stay here for a while, at least to rest a little," said Rosa, as she placed a chair in the airiest corner of the room. "God repay you, my child," whispered the old woman, slowly settling into her chair, her hands shaking a little. Rosa took a glass of water from the water dispenser and brought it to her. Meanwhile, the old woman began to talk with that simple, sweet way of someone who is no longer in a hurry. "I live in a village behind the old market. I came to visit a friend I hadn't seen for years, but I got confused, and when I saw her, I was too far away. I tried to go back, but my legs don't help like they used to." Rosa listened carefully. She felt an immediate affection for the woman. It was like listening to an aunt or grandmother recounting old stories. There was a sincerity there that touched her deeply. But time was passing quickly, and the clock was ticking. Soon the noon bell rang, announcing lunchtime. Rosa looked at the old woman with a kind smile. "I'm going outside to buy my food, okay? I'll bring something for you, too. You don't have to, child. You're already helping me too much. But if you'd like to bring me a bagel, I'd be happy to," replied the lady with a slight, almost shy smile. Rosa left with a light heart, happy to have done something good that day. But what she didn't imagine was that, in the minute she was gone, something would happen that would change everything. As Rosa walked through the streets near the company in search of a simple plate of rice, beans, and steak to share with the lady, on the other side, inside the building, the atmosphere changed rapidly. The company manager, Mrs. Lidisha, a rigid woman with a pointed nose, high heels, and a sharp gaze, returned from lunch earlier than expected. Always impeccable, she was known for treating those above her well and trampling mercilessly on those below her. As she passed through the side corridor, she noticed a strange presence at the ajar door to the warehouse. Curious, or rather suspicious, she pushed the door open and found the lady sitting quietly, looking at the cleaning products as if they were old souvenirs. "What are you doing here, ma'am?" Letitia said, without hiding her contemptuous tone. The old woman was startled, almost knocking over the glass of water she was still holding. The girl brought me. I just asked for a place to rest for a while." Letitia snorted. "This isn't shelter. This is a serious company. Who let you in?" Without waiting for an answer, she impatiently grabbed the old woman by the arm and pulled her towards the back door. The old woman tried to balance herself, frightened, her eyes watering. "Go away, lady. Go beg somewhere else. This isn't for your kind of people." The lady sat there on the sidewalk, the midday sun slowly burning her skin. She wasn't crying, but her eyes were moist with sadness she already knew well. That humiliation, that rejection, it wasn't the first time. A few minutes later, Rosa hurried back with her lunchbox in hand and a sweaty face. When she saw the lady outside, alone and downcast, her heart raced. "What happened? Why are you out here?" The old woman hesitated, but responded with wounded gentleness. "That girl sent me away. She said this was no place for me." Rosa was in shock, and deep in her chest, revolt began to grow like a burning flame. "No, it won't stay that way." She took a deep breath, clenched her fists, and climbed the steps with determination. Rosa climbed the stairs with her heart pounding in her chest. Each step was a mixture of indignation, pain, and courage. She knew that confronting the manager could cost her job. But at that moment, her sense of justice screamed louder than any fear. He pushed open the administration door with controlled force. There was Letitia, sitting at her desk, touching up her lipstick in front of a pocket mirror. As soon as she saw Rosa enter, she twisted her mouth in disdain. "Oh, you're back? Oh, good. I've already put your little friend in her place. This is an asylum, okay?" Rosa took a deep breath, trying to stay calm, but her voice came out firm, without trembling. "That lady didn't hurt you at all. She just needed a place to rest. And I offered what I could, because I have manners, something you clearly lack." Letitia put down the mirror and crossed her arms, looking teasing. "Are you challenging me? A newly hired cleaning lady trying to teach me morals? It's not a question of position. It's a question of character," replied Rosa. "And, frankly, I can't go on in a place where those who help are treated as wrong, and those who humiliate think they're superior." Letitia laughed dryly. "So, what are you going to do? Leave? Great. One less to bother me." Rosa took the small bag off her back, unzipped it, and took out her badge. She placed it on the table as firmly as she had placed her dignity in front of her job. "I quit, and I'm only sorry for those who still have to put up with your arrogance every day." Without waiting for an answer, he turned his back and left. The corridor seemed lighter, as if the whole building had heard and approved of his attitude. When he got outside, he found the lady still in the same place. She smiled tenderly, despite her pain. "Let's go to my place. You'll have a good lunch, take a shower, and rest without fear of being kicked out." The old woman smiled back, touched, speechless, and there began a new phase. Two women united by the pain of injustice, but also by the beauty of empathy. The walk to Rosa's house was silent, but full of meaning. The lady, even though she was tired, held on tightly to the young woman's arm, as if there she would find protection that the world was denying her. And Rosa, even though her heart was squeezed by the uncertainties of tomorrow, felt light because she had followed what she believed was right. Arriving at her humble home, a little house of exposed brick, with makeshift curtains and a small wood-burning stove in the corner, Rosa pulled up a chair for the lady and lovingly opened her lunchbox. "It's simple, isn't it? But it's done with love. Rice, beans, a piece of boiled egg, and flour." The lady smiled like she was looking at a feast. "Daughter, respectful food nourishes more than any festive dish." As they ate, the conversation flowed naturally. The old woman, who until then had seemed so fragile, began to open up. She told stories of her youth, her struggles, her children. But there was one in particular that she mentioned with a twinkle in her eye. "I have a good, hard-working son. He's traveling for work now, but he'll be back soon. He's my greatest asset. One day, I want to introduce you to." Rosa smiled, curious. "And does he know that you were here alone?" "Oh, no. I'd be too worried. But I'll call him soon." It was at that moment that Rosa noticed something glinting beneath the cloth covering the lady's neck. A gold cord, delicate, but of visible value. "That's a nice necklace. Was it a present?" The lady touched the necklace affectionately and replied with restrained pride, "My son gave it to me. He saved every penny to buy me. He said I deserved to shine, even when the world tried to erase me. Rosa felt a lump in her throat. That moment, simple and sincere, was more valuable than any luxury the company manager could boast. Little did she know that that conversation would only be the beginning of a turning point that would change both their lives forever. The afternoon progressed slowly, and the sun hid behind the crooked roof houses. Rosa washed the lunch dishes with slow movement, thinking about how she would explain to the owner of the kitchen that she was out of work again. The lady was resting on an old mattress in the corner of the room, eyes closed, but with a slight smile on her lips, like someone who, after a long time, felt a little peace. Then Rosa's cell phone vibrated on the table. She wiped her hands and answered, not recognizing the number. "Hello?" On the other end of the line, a thick, firm, and visibly irritated voice answered. "Are you Rosa, an employee of Montero Group?" She hesitated. "It was, sir. I resigned today. I'm Kyle Montero, CEO of the company, and I'm calling to understand the absurdity that happened today. Why did you put everyone's lives at risk by taking a homeless woman into the company? The manager reported that she tried to assault you." Rosa's eyes widened in disbelief at what she was hearing. She felt her blood boil. What did she say? That she was assaulted by an unknown woman, and that you covered it up. Rosa's voice hardened. It was no longer fear, but indignation. "The lady I took there is not a criminal. She was an elderly woman who was lost, tired, and needed help. Instead of reaching out, her manager chose to humiliate her. And you, without even investigating, chose to believe gossip. That says a lot about both of you." Kyle remained silent for a few seconds, but Rosa didn't wait. "I'm sorry, but I'm not a boss, and I don't accept being judged for doing what any decent human being would do. Good afternoon." And he hung up. On the other side of the room, the elderly woman watched her in silence, with a worried look on her face. "What happened, my child?" Rosa sighed and answered sweetly, even in the face of anger. "Nothing for you to worry about. I'd do it all over again without a second thought." The lady held Rosa's hand tenderly. "You have a rare heart, my child, rare indeed." And fate silently continued to trace their paths. The sun had already set, and Rosa's small house was lit only by the yellowish light of a lamp hanging from the ceiling. The old lady, settled on a corner of the sofa covered with flowered sheet, seemed to be calmer, but her eyes were still pensive, like someone carrying something that needed to be said. While Rosa was preparing a cup of fennel tea, an unexpected sound interrupted the silence, a cell phone ringing. But it wasn't Rosa. She turned around, surprised to see the lady looking inside the bag she was carrying. From it, she took out a simple telephone, old but still working. Rosa frowned, confused. "Do you have a cell phone?" The old woman smiled awkwardly, trying to disguise it. "Yeah, an acquaintance of mine gave it to me. I only use it when it's urgent." Rosa didn't ask any questions. She just watched as the old woman answered the call. "Hello? Ah, my son. Are you back yet?" Rosa pretended not to listen, but every word the lady said aroused even more curiosity. "It's okay, my son. Yes, I'm fine. A little thing happened to me, but I'll explain it to you later. I'm with a very nice girl. Can I come and see you tomorrow?" "Yes, I will." "God bless you, my son." When she hung up, she turned to Rosa with an excited smile. "My son is back from a trip. He asked me to come to his house tomorrow. I want to introduce you to him, but I'm going alone, okay? I want it to be a surprise." Rosa smiled back warmly. "It's okay, ma'am. I just want you to be well. He'll be happy to see that you're being looked after." "Yes, he will. He's a good boy. Simple, but very hard-working," said the old woman, with her usual twinkle in her eye. Early the next morning, she got ready as best she could. She put on her cleanest clothes, tied her scarf around her head, and walked out with slow but steady steps. Rosa accompanied her to the corner, wishing her luck and a good reunion. But what the lady didn't expect was to be barred once again and humiliated before she even saw her son. The lady walked with effort to the luxurious condominium where her son lived, a tall building with automatic gates. Security guards lined up at the entrance and a reception that looked more like a five-star hotel. She carried the hope of a reunion on her face, nostalgia in her chest and in her hands, a small plastic bag with a folded cloth inside, a gift she prepared for her son with such affection. As soon as she approached the gate, the first security guard looked at her suspiciously. Whoa, lady, where do you think you're going?" "I came to see my son. He lives here. He's just called me." "His name?" Kyle Montero." The security guard exchanged glances with his colleague, who let out a muffled laugh. "Donna, this is no place to visit without an appointment. And even less for, well, for you to understand, right? Before she could answer, a familiar voice came from the background. What is this woman doing here again? It was Letitia, the manager. The same one who had humiliated the lady at the company was now leaving the building in a tight dress and sunglasses, carrying a designer handbag. Look, I told you to beef up security. This woman is stalking me. First she showed up at the company. Now here, the old woman tried to explain in a shaky voice. My child, don't call me daughter. You have no idea who I am, do you? Get out of here before I call the police. The lady bowed her head. A silent tear ran down the corner of her cheek. What else could she do? Then, with trembling hands, she picked up her cell phone and made one last attempt. Hello, Kyle. I'm here, at the gate. But they wouldn't let me up. On the other end of the line, silence, and then his voice came through, cold but firm. Stay there. I'm going down now. Minutes later, Kyle appeared. Dark suit, serious look. When he saw his mother standing there, with her eyes watering and her clothes worn, he felt his chest tighten. He walked over to her, ignoring security guards and Letitia, and held her hands carefully. Mom, what happened? She looked him in the eye and just said, We need to talk, but just the two of us. He nodded. He turned to Letitia, his face serious, his eyes hard, and said, Come in. We're going to talk now. But what came next would change the course of everything. Kyle opened the apartment door with heavy footsteps. The silence between him and his mother was dense, not for lack of words, but for everything that needed to be digested. You can come in, Mom. Make yourself at home, he said, his voice restrained, trying not to let his emotions show. She entered, observing the room with restrained curiosity. The luxurious decor, the designer furniture, the scent of expensive coffee in the air. It wasn't the kind of place she felt comfortable in, but there was her son, and that was all that mattered. While the lady went to the bathroom to get herself together, Kyle stayed in the living room, pensive, looking at the door as if he already knew what was coming. And it came. The door opened again, and Letitia walked in looking triumphant, taking off her sunglasses and smiling. Honey, we need to talk. That beggar, she showed up at the company again earlier today. Can you believe it? And now she's here at the door. I told the security guards to be extra careful. This is getting dangerous. Kyle turned around slowly, watching every word come out her mouth, as if he were hearing it for the first time. He waited for her to finish, crossed his arms, and, with a calm that frightened her, replied, Letitia, that woman you called a beggar, is my mother. Silence filled the room. Letitia remained still for a few seconds. The color seemed to fade from her face. What? My mother, the woman you humiliated twice, at the company and at the gate, the woman you looked down on, as if she was worthless. She tried to regain control. Kyle, love, I didn't know. I'm sorry, please. I thought it was just There's no excuse, Letitia. No matter who it was. Old people shouldn't be treated like that. No one should. Letitia, in desperation, tried to approach him. Love, wait. Are you going to swap me for her? No, I'm not changing you. I'm cutting you out of my life. She widened her eyes. Are you kicking me out? You can take everything you own. And please don't ever come here again. Letitia, now in tears, tried to play her last card. You're still going to look for me, Kyle. You'll find no one better than me. He didn't answer. He just turned away. A few minutes later, his mother came out of the shower, her hair combed and wearing a simple dress that Rosa had washed. She found her son with his eyes downcast, pensive. What happened, my son? He looked at her, his face heavy with shame. Forgive me, Mom, for letting you go through this, for not being here when I should have been. She smiled and, with a serenity that only time teaches, replied, It's not your fault, my son. Thank God you found out who she was before it was too late. And there, in that silent embrace, a wound began to heal. The days passed with a different lightness. The lady was now well settled in her son's house. Kyle, who was closer to her, made a point of being present for everything, from breakfast to evening teas, listening carefully to every story that he had previously passed over due to lack of time. He had finally understood that his mother's presence was a gift, not a detail. One of those quiet afternoons, sitting on the balcony, she held his hand affectionately. Kyle, can I ask you something? Of course, Mom. I wanted you to meet the girl who helped me, the one who gave up everything for me. She's special, my son. She has a heart you don't see anywhere else. He smiled, curious. Rosa, right? You talk about her so much that you feel like part of the family. The lady laughed. It's because she deserves it. And I feel that you need to get to know each other. The following week, the elderly woman organized a simple but loving lunch. Rosa was invited, without imagining what awaited her. She put on her best clothes, a flowery blouse and jeans that were already a little worn, and brought a dessert that she had made herself. When he arrived and saw Kaio, he was startled. It was him, the same man who had called her in a rage weeks before. But there, in front of her, he was different, human, grateful. "Are you Rosa?" he asked with a smile. "Yes, I am," she replied, a little disconcerted. "I should thank you for everything, for taking care of my mother, for being more family to her than many people with the same blood name." Lunch was full of laughter, stories, and shy glances. In the days that followed, Kaio and Rosa began to see each other more often, first out of gratitude, then out of harmony, and, over time, out of love. Rosa, so used to fighting, found herself in a new world. But she wasn't dazzled. She took with her her essence, her simplicity, and her way of caring. A few months later, in a simple but emotional ceremony, the two were married. The lady, smiling, walked down the aisle arm in arm with her son, handing Rosa over as if she were sealing a destiny. Life tests our hearts every day, and it's often in the simplest situations that it reveals who we really are. Rosa had neither wealth nor status, but she had something rare, compassion. In a world where so many people turn their backs on those in need, she chose to reach out, and that is exactly what transformed her destiny. This story reminds us that kindness is never in vain. It may not pay off immediately, but sooner or later, the universe gives back twice as much. Have you? Have you ever judged someone on their appearance? Have you ever stopped helping because you were afraid of what others would think? Comment below. Would you have done the same as Rosa? Let's talk about it. Your opinion can inspire others. And if this story has touched your heart, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Every week, we bring you real stories that show that life is full of twists and turns, and that sometimes the simplest gesture is what changes everything.